Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss surprising facts about the Quran and Islamic books that even Muslims don't know. So watch this video until the end, okay? The primary holy book of Islam is the Quran, which means the reading or the recitation. Muslims believe that the Quran is the revelation from Allah, sent to Muhammad, through the angel Gabriel. And they believe that the Quran has remained unchanged from Muhammad's time until now. Some ordinary Muslims even think the Quran descended from heaven in its complete book form. According to Islamic sources, the Quran was compiled after Muhammad's death by someone named Zayd bin Thabit, under the orders of Muhammad's successor, named Abu Bakr. After Abu Bakr's death, his successor named Umar, asked his daughter named Hafsa, who was also a former wife of Muhammad, to keep it safe. After Umar's death, his successor named Uthman, found various versions of the Quran, circulating among people. Uthman then ordered Zayd bin Thabit again, to recompile the Quran in the Quraysh dialect, and burn all other versions, including the one kept by Hafsa. Therefore, Muslims with some knowledge of history, claim that the Quran has not changed since Uthman's time, not since Muhammad's time. However, this claim is also not accurate. Islamic history records that between 685 and 705, Abdul Malik bin Marwan did what Uthman had done before. He ordered al-Hajjaj bin Yusuf to recompile the Quran and burn all other versions circulating among people. Based on this story, there should only be one version of the Quran, but by the 10th century, there were at least 7 versions of the Quran, as Ibn Mujahid recorded in his book As-Sab'a fi al-Qirat. These 7 versions are the recitations or qirat of Nafi, Ibn Kathir, Hamza, Asim, Abu Amir, al-Kisai, and Ibn Amir. Muslims with a deeper understanding refer to them as the 7 qirat. Meanwhile, Muslims who do not study their own history think that the 7 qirat have existed since the first revelation was given to Muhammad, because there are several stories, as in Hadith Bukhari 4991 and Muslim 1939, which state that the Quran was revealed in 7 araf. Gabriel recited the Quran to me in one mode. Then I repeated it, and I kept requesting him to increase the number of modes, and he granted me more until the number reached 7. The issue of the 7 araf should have been resolved when Uthman standardized the Quran in the Quraysh dialect in the 7th century. However, the 7 qirat being referred to only emerged in the 10th century. Currently, the most widely circulated version of the Quran is the Hafs version, which is not listed among the 7 qirat and was only published in 1924 in Cairo, Egypt. Besides the Hafs version, there are other versions, as the Warsh version in Morocco, the Kalin version in Egypt, the Al-Duri version in Sudan, and several other Arabic versions, circulating in different regions. Most Muslims are unaware of the many different Arabic versions of the Quran. Those who are aware often try to defend this by claiming that the differences are only in dialects, not in meaning. However, this claim is also incorrect. One example of a difference in meaning is in Quran Surah 2 verse 184. The Hafs version reads Ta'amu miskinin, meaning food for one poor person, whereas the Warsh version reads Ta'ami masakina, meaning food for the poor people. This verse talks about the obligation of a Muslim who fails to observe fasting. In the Hafs version, a Muslim must compensate by feeding one poor person, while in the Warsh version, they must feed more than 2 poor people. Thus this single verse alone proves that the different versions of the Arabic Quran are not just different dialects, but have different meanings that impact religious practices. If the Warsh version is correct, then the fasting compensation practice of all Muslims following the Hafs version would be invalid in their faith. So, the claim that the Quran worldwide is the same and unchanged since Muhammad's time is not true. It is merely a deception to sell Islam. If we delve deeper into archaeological evidence, we will find even more surprising facts. The oldest Quranic manuscript known today is the Birmingham Quran manuscript. Carbon dating suggests that this manuscript likely dates back to around 568. Meaning, the Quran existed before Muhammad was born, in 570. The oldest and most complete manuscript is the Topkapi Quran, estimated to have been written around 750. From the Birmingham manuscript to the Topkapi manuscript, the content of the Quran gradually increased. In other words, archaeological evidence shows that the Quran did not originate from one person, Muhammad, but from many people, over a span of 100 to almost 200 years. The Quran only stopped growing during the Abbasid dynasty, coinciding with the emergence of stories about Muhammad. The Quran consists of 114 sections called surahs, which each given titles, such as the cow, the women, the cave, and so on. Hadith ibn Majah 1934 is an example of Islamic source, stating that there are verses about the punishment of stoning and adult breastfeeding are missing from the Quran. Narrated by multiple people, from Aisha who said, the verse about stoning and the verse about breastfeeding an adult 10 times were revealed, and the paper was with me under my bed. When the Messenger of Allah passed away, and we were preoccupied with his death, a domestic animal entered, and ate it. Furthermore, from the records of The Heresy of the Ishmaelites by John of Damascus, who lived between 675 to 749, we learn that during that time, there was a surah called the She-Camel, which is no longer present in the current Quran. One important aspect missing in the Quran is the dimension of time. There is no chronology in the Quran. The Quran is not arranged in chronological order, and no Muslim can explain the basis on which the Quran is organized. When reading the Quran, one will find stories that jump back and forth. One moment it talks about Moses, suddenly it shifts to Muhammad, then to Abraham, and so on. Muslims do not question this, because for them, it is either not important, or considered the wisdom of Allah, that cannot be understood. What is important for them, is memorizing the Quran, because they believe they will receive rewards from Allah, for doing so. However, for those of us who understand the Bible, this proves that the Quran is not from God, but merely a human creation, that does not understand history. In Quran Surah 19 verse 28, Mary the mother of Jesus, is referred to as the sister of Aaron. O sister of Aaron, meaning Mary, your father was not a man of evil, nor was your mother unchaste. This means, the author of the Quran did not understand the history in the Bible. He assumed that Mary the mother of Jesus was the same person as Miriam the sister of Moses, simply because their names are similar. However, the time gap between Moses and Jesus is about 1,500 years. There is also the possibility that the author of the Quran thought Jesus and Joshua were the same person. In Quran Surah 7 verse 157, it mentions the Torah and the Gospel that are with them. The context before and after this verse talks about the time of Moses, indicating that they refers to the people of Moses' time. Those who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whom they find written in what they have, of the Torah and the Gospel, who enjoins upon them what is right, and forbids them what is wrong, and makes lawful for them the good things, and prohibits for them the evil, and relieves them of their burden, and the shackles which were upon them. So they who have believed in him, honored him, supported him, and followed the light which was sent down with him, it is those who will be the successful. This implies that the author of the Quran thought the gospel existed during Moses' time. Perhaps the author thought Joshua was the son of Miriam the sister of Moses, and that God sent down a book titled the Torah to Moses, and a book titled the Gospel to Joshua. Muslims today often question the whereabouts of the original gospel that was sent to Jesus, as if the gospel were a book that descended from heaven, in complete form. If we examine the Quran more deeply, we will find that many sources of the Quran are actually taken from pre-existing legends. Here are 3 easy examples from the many legendary stories quoted by the Quran. The story of Dhul-Qarnayn, in Quran 18 verse 83 to 99, comes from the Syriac version of the Alexander Romance. The story of the companions of the cave, in Quran Surah 18 verse 1-26, comes from the Christian legend, The Seven Sleepers, by Bishop Jacob of Serag. The story of Solomon and the ants, in Quran Surah 27 verse 18-19, comes from the Jewish legend, The Valley of the Ants. In addition, there are many verses in the Quran that contradict science. From the numerous Quranic verses that contradict science, here are 3 examples that one shouldn't need to be a professor to understand. According to Quran Surah 18 verse 86, the sun sets in a muddy spring. Until, when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it setting in a spring of dark mud, and he found near it a people. We said, O Dhul-Qarnayn, either you punish them, or adopt among them kindness. According to Quran Surah 86 verse 6-7, semen is produced from between the backbone and the ribs. He was created from a fluid, ejected, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. According to Quran Surah 37 verse 6, stars are in the nearest layer of the sky. Indeed, we have adorned the nearest heaven with an adornment of stars. A question arises, why do Muslims believe such a book is a revelation from God? The answer is that Muslims do not know what the Quran contains. They are only instructed to memorize it, without understanding. And they believe it is a revelation from God, so they will receive rewards. Muslims who realize that the Quran comes from legends and contradicts history and science will apostatize. Therefore, one way to help Muslims leave Islam is to show them the actual content of the Quran and ask them, do you think the true God would send a revelation that comes from human-made legends? Would the true God send a revelation that contradicts historical facts and science? When you ask Muslims such questions, be mindful of your demeanor, so that you do not come across as mocking, insulting, or judging them. Understand that they are also human beings, and victims of deception. It is not easy for someone to accept that what they have believed all this time is a lie. Now I will choose 3 verses from the Quran that every Christian should know. Quran Surah 9 verse 29. Fight those who do not believe in Allah and the Last Day, and do not forbid what Allah and His Messenger have forbidden, and do not follow the religion of truth, meaning Islam, from those who were given the scripture, meaning the Jews and the Christians, until they give the jizya willingly, while they are humbled. This means the Quran commands Muslims to fight the Christians, the Jews and other non-Muslim, until they regularly pay a protection tax and become subjugated to Muslims. There is no verse in the Quran stating that this command to fight is no longer valid. Quran Surah 19 verse 71-72. There is none of you but will pass over it, meaning hell. This is with your Lord, a decree which must be accomplished. Then we will save those who feared Allah, and leave the wrongdoers within it, on their knees. This means that according to the Quran, all Muslims are destined to enter hell by Allah, their own God, and then hopefully be saved by Angel Gabriel. Quran Surah 2 verse 62. Indeed, those who have believed, those who were Jews or Christians or Sabaeans, those who believed in Allah and the Last Day and did righteousness, will have their reward with their Lord, and no fear will there be concerning them, nor will they grieve. This means that according to the Quran, people who are not Muslims are not necessarily destined for hell, and are assured of rewards from their Lord. The next set of books, considered sacred or authoritative besides the Quran, is the Hadith. Hadith are collections of short stories about the actions or sayings of Muhammad. There are 6 Hadith collections, considered the most authentic: Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan al-Tirmidhi, Sunan al-Nasa'i, and Sunan ibn Majah. Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari was born in Uzbekistan in 810 and died in 870. Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj was born in Iran, we don't know the year, and died in 875. Abu Dawud was born in Sistan in 817 and died in 889. Muhammad ibn Isa al-Tirmidhi was born in Uzbekistan in 824 and died in 892. Al-Nasai was born in Turkmenistan in 829, and died in 915. Ibn Majah was born in Iran in 824, and died in 886. Thus they all lived in the 9th century, approximately 200 years after Muhammad's death. The question is, where did they get these short stories about Muhammad? According to what is written in the Hadith themselves, these stories come from a chain of narrations, known as Sanad. There are several types of Hadith, based on their authenticity. Simply put, there are accepted Hadith and rejected Hadith. The accepted Hadith with the highest status is called Sahih Hadith, followed by Hasan Hadith. Rejected Hadith are called Mardud Radaf Hadith, which means weak or false. Besides Hadith, other authoritative books are the Tafsir of the Quran. Tafsir means explanation or interpretation. These books are crucial, because the Quran is not clear or straightforward. There are 5 most authoritative Tafsir books: Tafsir al-Tabari, Tafsir ibn Kathir, Tafsir al-Qurtubi, Tafsir al-Jalalain, and Tafsir al-Suyuti. Al-Tabari was born in Iran and died in 923. Ibn Kathir was born in Syria and died in 1373. Al-Qurtubi was born in Spain in 1214, and died in 1273. Tafsir al-Jalalain was published in 1505. Al-Suyuti was born in Egypt in 1445, and died in 1505. Thus these Tafsir books only appeared from the 10th century onwards. From books like the Hadith and Tafsir, we can find Asbab al-Nuzul, or the reasons for the revelation of Quranic verses, because the Quran is not perfect and not clear. There is no context or chronology in the Quran, so it needs to be clarified by other books. Well, now you know about the Quran and Islamic books, more than average Muslims. Therefore, if you find this video useful, give a thumbs up, and share this video as much as possible. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet. Additionally, everything I shared in this video, is also written in a book I wrote. There is a lot of other information you can find in my book, and you can get it for free. The way is simply go to the address, bit.ly/howtoanswermuslim. You are free to read, print, share, and even sell it, without needing my permission, or giving me anything. Or if you want to buy the print version of this book, you can go to bit.ly/printhowtoanswermuslim. And if you'd like to support me, you can do it through patreon.com/openbiblica. That's all for this video. See you in the next one.
الله ليس الكبير، الله ليس كبير، واشهد أن هناك الكثير مع الله، واشهد أن هناك الكثير مع الله، واشهد أن محمدا ليس رسول الله، واشهد أن محمدا ليس رسول الله. ليس هناك فائدة من الصلاة، ليس هناك فائدة من الصلاة، وليس نحم النجاة، وليس نحم النجاة. الله ليس كبيرا، الله ليس كبيرا، هناك كثيرا، جانب الله، هناك كثيرا، جانب الله.